the world more connected. Would an idea that great ever fly? It will, and like nothing else. Boeing, forever new frontiers.
Closed captioning hours on CNN, sponsored in part by Garlic, cholesterol's natural enemy.
Cholesterol. My doctor said to watch it.
Garlic maintains healthy cholesterol naturally.
My doctor's happy. So am I.
Eat right, exercise, Garlic.
U.S. military helicopters have begun to airlift American citizens out of Lebanon. But only 64 of the estimated 25,000 Americans in Lebanon have left. Tomorrow, a Greek cruise ship chartered by the United States joins the rescue operation. It will take evacuees to Cyprus, an estimated 750 Americans. Jamie McIntyre reports from the Pentagon now on the U.S. rescue operation. Bill Tucker reports on why the United States has been much slower to begin evacuating its citizens than other countries. We begin with Jamie McIntyre at the Pentagon. Jamie?
Lou, so far those helicopter flights have been going to people who have special needs, but for most Americans, the way out of Lebanon will be by sea. A U.S. Marine Corps CH-53 helicopter brought the first evacuated Americans to a British Royal Air Base in southeast Cyprus. The first to be airlifted out, 21 Sunday and 43 Monday, were U.S. citizens with dependents with special needs, along with some embassy staff. But the trickle of Americans is expected to become a flood in the coming days, as thousands who are stranded in the war zone are just waiting for word they have arrived. Pentagon sources say 3 more helicopters from the 24th Marine Expeditionary Unit operating in the Red Sea will be moved to Cyprus Tuesday, bringing to a half dozen the number operating in the air bridge. But for most Americans, the way out is by sea. The State Department has chartered an aging Greek cruise ship, the Orient Queen, which usually carries 750 passengers, but could take twice as many on a short 5-hour trip between the port of Beirut and Larnaca, Cyprus.
We're building up the assets in the region so that we can operate on a scale of moving thousands of people.
Pentagon sources say several U.S. amphibious assault ships are on standby in the Red Sea if they are needed to increase the capacity. They include the USS Trenton, the USS Nashville, and the USS Whidbey Island. In addition, the U.S. Navy destroyer Gonzales is being dispatched to Lebanon to provide security for the sea evacuation. Of the 25,000 Americans in Lebanon, roughly 15,000 have registered on the State Department's website, 3,000 since the crisis began. The question is, how many actually want to leave Lebanon? The U.S. government doesn't know. Its best guess at this point is upwards of 5,000. Lou?
Jamie, thank you. Jamie McIntyre from the Pentagon. The U.S. rescue operation for Americans trapped in Lebanon appears remarkably slow compared with the efforts of some other countries. The Italians and French, for example, have already been evacuating their citizens and even some Americans. But it took 6 days for the U.S. State Department to announce a plan to rescue our citizens. Bill Tucker has the story.
There is no greater priority than getting Americans out of Lebanon, says the State Department.
It's job one. It's the only job right now. Take care of American citizens. Get them out of harm's way.
Tell that to Lobna Fatih, a Dearborn, Michigan pediatrician whose husband and sons were vacationing in Lebanon.
It's unbelievable how these people are just waiting day in and day out through all this bombardment and harm.
Rather than sit back and wait, they decided to flee by car, exiting through Syria.
It was a really stressful ride. He was fearful for his life. He wasn't sure if on the route driving from Beirut through to Syria if he would get bombed.
Lobna's husband and sons are expected home on Tuesday. The U.S. has been slow in evacuating its citizens because it's a matter of scale. The State Department says evacuating 20 to 25,000 Americans is very difficult.
We are operating on a scale of operations and planning that is really different than most other countries.
Matters of scale don't seem to have stopped the French, who have a similar number of French citizens to get out. Their full-scale evacuation is already underway. And for those Americans wanting to leave, evacuation does carry a price tag. American citizens will be asked to pay for the evacuation. If they don't have money available, they will be allowed to sign what amounts to an IOU. And Lou, the State Department is not saying when the evacuations will start, only, quote, in the near future.
Of course, those two helicopter airlifts and the cruise ship expected to arrive tomorrow. But as you say, that is all we know at this hour tonight. Bill Tucker, thank you very much. We'll have much more on this worsening crisis in the Middle East tonight, including these developments tonight. New missile attacks on northern Israel tonight. The siege of Haifa is going on. The war in the Middle East, just one front in the war on radical Islamist terrorism around the world. We'll have that special report on the rising threat of radical Islam. And expert analysis from former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger here. We'll be joined by a panel of Mideast experts as well. Stay with us.
Joe's been my plumber for 6 years and was recently working on a drainage problem in my home. So I called him from work to let him know that I'd be a little late. Unfortunately, no one told Molly, my 3-year-old Papillon. Joe patiently paraded her up and down the street, sacrificing his time and dignity until her business was done. That's why he's the only plumber I'll ever use.
Visit Angie's List for thousands of unbiased reports from members in your area. Borrow some experience at Angie's List.
Still have an adjustable mortgage? Refinance now to a low fixed rate from Ditech.com. We'll also guarantee you the lowest rate and fee. At Ditech, refinancing is quick and easy, even if your credit is less than perfect. Log on or call 1-800-71-FIX.
Act now for our best offer yet. Unlimited local and long distance for just $19.99 a month for the first 6 months. That's a savings of up to 50% on your phone bill. Call 1-800-620-6630 or visit Vonage.com/1999.
Tonight at 10 on AC360.
Another siren just gone off.
Anderson Cooper, live on the front lines in the Middle East. CNN Tonight, 10 Eastern.
Finally, there's a real choice in home phone service, because with Comcast Digital Voice, now you're talking. For one flat rate, you get unlimited local and nationwide long distance on the phones you already have, using the power of the Comcast fiber optic network we built from the ground up. That includes 12 calling features and voicemail you can check online. So don't just chat. Talk with Comcast Digital Voice. Just $33 a month for up to 12 months. Comcast, the power of one.
So Heather, what do you think this is?
I don't know, John. What is it?
It's how you find PD Exposed on demand.
Oh, and how do you do that?
Well, with your Comcast digital cable remote, you click on Channel 1, click on Local Programs, then click on CW14, and then...
click on PD Exposed.
Exactly.
Yeah, but do you think these guys can figure that out?
PD Exposed is brought to you by PDX Magazine, Portland's where to go, what to do guide, featuring live music, restaurants, nightlife, local sports, and latest trends. Pick up this month's issue today or download your free copy at pdxmagazine.com.
Former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright and more on the Mideast. Larry King, 9 Eastern.
In the past hour, Israeli aircraft have launched new airstrikes against Lebanon. A Lebanese army barracks among the targets. There are no reports yet of any casualties. The Lebanese government says 170 Lebanese have been killed over the past 6 days of fighting, more than 400 Lebanese wounded. Hezbollah, meanwhile, has fired dozens more rockets and missiles at Israel. Some hit the Israeli port of Haifa, Israel's third largest city. 24 Israelis have been killed over the past week, 12 civilians and 12 soldiers. In Gaza City today, Palestinians rallied in support of Hezbollah and its widening terror campaign against Israel. Members of the radical Islamist terrorist group Islamic Jihad also took part in the demonstration. The protesters stomped on Israeli and U.S. flags and then set them afire. Today's rally was held as Palestinian militants fired at least 5 homemade rockets into Israel. At least 2 Palestinians were killed in clashes with Israeli troops. Also today, Israeli warplanes launched a second airstrike against the Palestinian Foreign Ministry in Gaza City. The attack completely destroyed what was left of the building. Hezbollah is launching new rocket attacks tonight against the northern Israeli city of Haifa. Hezbollah rockets are also falling on separate targets in northern Israel. One rocket hit a hospital. At least 5 Israelis have been injured in those new attacks tonight. These attacks against targets in northern Israel come one day after a Hezbollah missile hit the Haifa train station. 8 people were killed. Paula Hancock reports from Haifa, a city tonight under siege.
6 a.m. in Haifa, a different wake-up call for the residents of this port city. The sirens a constant reminder of the threat from the north. Usually the sirens sound first, then seconds later the dull thuds of the rockets exploding. But it doesn't always happen in that order. Several times in the afternoon the ugly thuds come first, then the warning sirens. Hundreds of Hezbollah rockets have been striking northern Israeli towns for the last 6 days, killing at least a dozen. This, the immediate aftermath of one of the Hezbollah rockets. Part of a 3-story apartment block in the center of town collapsed. 11 people injured.
The majority of the casualties are suffering from crash injuries due to the situation when the building was collapsing.
Avi said Haifa has become top of the target list for rockets. It's just too dangerous. Another neighbor, Nahom, tells us he's lucky to be alive. He was a stone's throw from where the rocket hit. The rockets were not reserved for Haifa. The border town of Safad was hit again. A resident of this house screamed, "We will be hit in the head, but we are not scared." With the barrage of rockets came Israeli wartime censorship rules. CNN and other broadcasters can no longer show you wide pictures of the area during attacks. The IDF says showing those images provides Hezbollah with invaluable targeting information.
By having the media not serve as an intelligence gathering element for the enemy. Now, in times of war, I'm sure the enemy have other sources of information, but our job is to make it more difficult for them, not easier for them.
And as the sirens sound again, a collective holding of breath and the wait for that dull thud. Paula Hancock's CNN, Haifa, Israel.
Coming up next, much more on the escalating Middle East crisis, including Israel's next move in the war against Hezbollah, why Israel may be forced to send more ground troops into southern Lebanon. The U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, John Bolton, joins us here. He's rejecting calls for an international security force in southern Lebanon. Former U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger joins us as well. All of that and more coming right up. Stay with us.
Get home delivery of the New York Times, now in more U.S. locations than ever before.
It tells me in depth what I want to know.
Even if you don't live in New York, I think it's great to get the New York Times.
Get home delivery of the New York Times at 50% off. Call 1-800-909-5577.
It gives you the national perspective.
They're worldwide, really.
Science time, science and leisure.
The sports. I clip articles, I clip recipes.
It's just a useful tool.
Make your day richer with the New York Times. Get home delivery at 50% off, as low as $2.50 a week.
The New York Times really tries to get at the truth.
I respect the Times.
It's aerobics for the brain.
Sort of the how to, when to, where to.
I started reading the New York Times when I was 7 years old. It's part of my family tradition.
It's concise, it's evocative. It makes me feel like I'm in the know.
Get home delivery at 50% off for 12 weeks, as low as $2.50 a week.
I feel like there's a broader scope.
It's fun to read.
It helps keep me inspired.
Now get home delivery in even more U.S. locations. Call 1-800-909-5577 for the New York Times at 50% off.
There's the Times and there's everything else.
On Headline News Prime, we don't fake passion.
Can't we celebrate honest questioning?
Or hide our personality.
You are in contempt.
Glenn Beck, Nancy Grace, passion, personality, and a point of view. Headline News Prime tonight.
What if your best friend from childhood grew up to be the world's most wanted man? In the footsteps of Bin Laden, a 2-hour special investigation, Wednesday, August 23rd, only on CNN.
The Audi Q7, the SUV from the creator of Quattro.
Israel Tonight reporting it's destroyed a long-range Hezbollah missile capable of reaching Tel Aviv, Israel's largest city. Israel said the missile was made in Iran. Hezbollah today fired dozens more rockets at northern Israel. Those rockets hit at least 11 Israeli towns and villages. Israeli aircraft and artillery continuing their bombardment of Lebanon. One of the targets, a Lebanese army barracks. Earlier in the day, Israel hit port facilities and the suburbs of Beirut. Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert today vowed to step up Israeli attacks against Hezbollah terrorists. During a speech to the Israeli parliament, he said Israel will strike at Hezbollah until all of Israel's ceasefire conditions are met. Fanula Sweeney is live in Jerusalem with a report on Israel's strategy from here. Fanula.
Well, indeed, Lou, it was a rousing speech to the Israeli Knesset, many saying they had never seen Ehud Olmert in such feisty form. He used several stock phrases, angry phrases, against what he described as terrorists' willingness to attack Israel being a sign of a mistake or weakness on Israel's part. Well, if that was the case, then they were wrong. He said the state of Israel had a right to defend itself. Terrorists, he said, he described as subcontractors of regimes who support terrorism from Tehran to Damascus. And he spoke directly to the Israeli people, saying this was a moment of vital importance to, quote, our national existence. Israel will not continue to live in the shadow or the face of the threat of terrorism. But signs as well, though, that although he intends to continue and bring the fight to Hezbollah, that all signs also of a compromise possibly in the offing. Israel now seeming to believe that a military solution may not be the answer to all this, and now beginning to look for a diplomatic solution. It's a deputy chief of the Israeli military army saying that the Israeli army would need one more week to clean up Hezbollah, as he put it. But now seemingly Israel looking for a resolution which was passed 2 years ago, Lou, in southern Lebanon, implying that the Israeli government should not be involved there, but that the Lebanese government should actually create a buffer zone there and clear Hezbollah and other militant groups out. This is what Israel is beginning to say tonight that it wants, but first it needs a week, it says, to finish up what it has begun.
Fanula, thank you very much. Fanula Sweeney reporting from Jerusalem. That brings us to our poll question tonight. Do you believe Israel is justified in what Prime Minister Ehud Olmert called war waged at full strength with all determination, courage, and sacrifice? Yes or no? Please cast your vote at BlueDobbs.com. The results coming up later in the broadcast. President Bush today returned to Washington after attending the G8 summit meeting in St. Petersburg, Russia. That meeting, of course, dominated by the Middle East conflict. World leaders called upon Israel to exercise restraint, but they told Hezbollah to make the first move to end this conflict. French President Jacques Chirac said that means Israel must agree to a ceasefire, an assertion that was immediately challenged by the United States. President Bush strongly supports Israel's right to defend itself. The United States and Israel tonight are strongly resisting United Nations efforts to deploy a new international security force in Lebanon. The U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, John Bolton, said he doubted any international force would be able to disarm Hezbollah as required by a UN resolution enacted 2 years ago. Richard Roth reports from the United Nations.
Mideast diplomatic hopes are currently riding with shuttling United Nations envoys. Stop one Monday was in Beirut.
I can announce today that we have made some promising first efforts on the way forward.
The peacemakers say they have concrete ideas, but it's too soon for optimism. They have company in the region. French Prime Minister Dominique de Villepin is also in Beirut, saying no magic solution, but the immediate goal is a ceasefire. U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice will go too, awaiting the outcome of the UN dialogue. Their boss, UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, proposed, along with Britain's Tony Blair, a new international force to separate Israel and Hezbollah.
To make sure we have the troops, well-trained, well-equipped troops that can go in quite quickly.
But the UN already has a peacekeeping force in the same area, and it has been ignored by both sides.
Would it be empowered to deal with the countries like Syria and Iran that support Hezbollah?
The Security Council has met, but taken no decisions.
Yes, we are late. We should take action 2 days ago, not today, not tomorrow.
The U.S. is blocking any Security Council response to the Middle East violence, saying Israel has a right to defend itself.
Nobody wants to see a cessation of violence done in such a way that you end up back where we are today at some point in the future.
The Security Council is not likely to act, Lou, until an in-person visit from those traveling UN envoys. A top aide to Kofi Annan said the idea of an intervention force is just that, an idea, with the Security Council holding the final approval. Lou?
Richard, thank you. Richard Roth from the United Nations. Later here, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, John Bolton, joins us. Israel's fight to drive Hezbollah from southern Lebanon has reignited one of the central fronts in the war against radical Islamist terrorism. Around the world, radical Islamist terrorists are rising in strength and expanding their reach. Lisa Sylvester reports.
Radical Islamic fundamentalist groups now stretch across the globe. Different agendas, but a common anti-U.S. and Israel ideology. In the Palestinian territories, Hamas, Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade, and the Islamic Jihad. In Lebanon, Hezbollah, Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Indonesia, and with cells in most major Western countries. The Abu Sayyaf in the Philippines, and the armed Islamic group operating out of Algeria.
We're not only seeing more acts of terror around the world, but we're seeing terrorists getting better at publicity. And they're able to reach their audiences, and I think are growing more sophisticated about their audiences. And to the extent that terrorism in some ways is viewed as performance art, you're doing it for the reaction.
Pakistani Islamic extremists with links to Al-Qaeda are believed to be behind last week's train bombings in India that killed 186 people. The current Middle East conflict has brought together two groups, Hamas and Hezbollah. They are far larger and more sophisticated than Al-Qaeda. Hamas consists of Palestinians, largely Sunnis, fighting for an independent Palestinian state. Hezbollah is a Shia group that wants to create a Muslim fundamentalist state in Lebanon.
Hezbollah often views Hamas, if you would, as a frontline deterrence or a frontline force to contain Israel or to keep Israel preoccupied and divert its attention from Lebanon.
Israel's attention is now firmly focused on southern. For Hamas and Hezbollah, the fight is about territory in the Middle East and political control. These are more traditional goals. On the other hand, for Al-Qaeda, it's a general anti-American sentiment. Lou?
Lisa, thank you. Lisa Sylvester from Washington. We want to bring you up to date. Some breaking news out of Lebanon tonight. Israel tonight has launched new airstrikes against targets in Lebanon. Lebanon is the southern suburbs receiving those strikes by the Israelis. There have been reports of at least 2 large explosions. These are live pictures of Beirut. We have no word on casualties. We'll have much more from Beirut here coming right up. Just ahead, we'll be talking with the former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, and the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, John Bolton, joins us to discuss whether a ceasefire makes sense at this moment and what the United States policy will be going forward as the Middle East conflict widens. Stay with us.
It's back to school, and Best Buy's got what kids need to succeed, like laptops with fingerprint scanners for extra security, convertible notebooks that let you jot notes directly on the screen for new ways to learn, and media center computers that let you record, watch, and pause live TV. Check out the Gateway convertible notebook with dual-core technology. It's a perfect blend of performance and creativity. Save big for back to school, now at Best Buy.
Tell me, energy companies, tell me what's behind the price of gas.
Tell me why world demand for crude oil
determines what I pay
at the pump.
Tell me, how will I be able to drive my kids to school?
To school.
To work.
To work.
Tell me.
Tell me where my energy will come from. Tell me the truth. Tell me the truth.
Tell me how you're investing in this country.
Researching alternative fuels.
Tell me what you're doing.
And what I can do.
Tell me more about the future of energy.
Ask questions, get answers from America's oil and natural gas industry.
Pure Dell. It's an uncomplicated approach to creating more loyal customers. With enterprise database solutions, you can scale as you grow, and they all run on new Dell PowerEdge servers, featuring the reliability of dual-core Intel Xeon processors, which makes everything easy to manage. So you spend less time minding your servers and more time minding the store. That's the direct path to success. That's pure Dell.
Kerr-McGee launched the world's first cell spar. But what you can see is only the tip of the technology. Because Red Hawk pierces a mile of deep water, plus 2 miles more into the seafloor, to recover America's energy for Americans. Energy that without Kerr-McGee's deep water solutions might forever belong to the deep. Nobody rules the deep water like the explorers of Kerr-McGee.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Israel tonight has launched new airstrikes against targets in Lebanon. Israel striking the southern suburbs of Beirut. There are reports of at least 2 large explosions. We have no word on casualties so far or damage. Nick Robertson in Beirut joins me now live. Nick, tell us what's going on.
Lou, two very big blasts that we could hear from the center of Beirut. The southern suburbs begin 2 to 3 miles from here. That seems to be where the explosions were coming from. We saw this on local television as well. They're carrying live pictures. You can see the blast there. First one, and then the other comes fairly soon after. They shook the area that we're in. When we were looking at the television sets here, it appeared from the monitoring that the local television channels are doing as if the lights went out, possibly an indication that a local power distribution or power plant may have been the target. It's not clear, but those are the sort of facilities that we've seen targeted in those southern suburbs, and really they're very close to here, Lou. The way the two explosions reverberated here, again, an indication just how close they're striking to the center of Beirut. These southern suburbs really just off to my left over there, Lou.
Nick, thank you very much. Nick Robertson, live with that report in Beirut, and of course we'll be going back to Nick as developments warrant. The United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan says there should be a new international peacekeeping force in Lebanon to stop the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. But the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, John Bolton, says that he doubts an international force would be capable of disarming Hezbollah and to stop the rocket attacks against Israel. Ambassador Bolton joins us here now. Good to have you with us.
Glad to be here.
This conflict, it's clear the United States opposes a ceasefire at this point. Both remarks by yourself and the President in St. Petersburg. What is the expectation going forward? Is there a time appropriate that you have in your mind or in the minds of our government to put together a ceasefire?
Well, right now, we think Israel is exercising its legitimate right of self-defense. If a ceasefire could be brought about within a few seconds, if Hezbollah released the two Israeli soldiers that it captured, just as in the Gaza Strip, if Hamas released the Israeli soldier they captured. This is not a question of balance here. There's a terrorist attack committed against Israel, combined with numerous rocket launches, and what the Israelis are doing is no different than what any responsible government should do to protect its citizens.
No different. It is within the power of both Hamas and Hezbollah to end this, according to the terms set forth by the Prime Minister of Israel, Ehud Olmert, to return those prisoners and to disarm effectively.
Well, precisely. The root cause here is the fact that groups like Hamas and Hezbollah continue to reject any acceptance of the State of Israel. And as the G8 leaders said in St. Petersburg, that kind of extremism in the Middle East has to stop. Hamas and Hezbollah are financed and supported by terrorist cells in Syria and Iran. They get extraordinary amounts of financing from Iran in particular. And this kind of connection is the sort of problem that needs a solution in the Middle East.
Tony Blair, British Prime Minister Tony Blair, and Kofi Annan calling for that international peacekeeping force. But according to the UN resolution, Hezbollah was to have disarmed 2 years ago.
Yeah, the G8 leaders have asked the Security Council to look at the possibility of this kind of force. You know, the UN has had a force in southern Lebanon for 28 years, a so-called interim force that has not succeeded in doing that. The questions that we should be looking at, we are looking at now with respect to a possible new force, are really, will it be empowered to disarm Hezbollah? That's the source of the problem. Will it go to the root cause of this terrorism, or will it not?
The root cause of this terrorism is a conflict decades long, about 60 years, between Israel and its Arab neighbors. There is an absolute incompatibility between the two on the issue of whether Israel should exist and whether or not the Arabs should tolerate the existence. How does the United States come up with a new approach, and the United Nations if possible, to establishing what has been decades of failure?
I think the question is whether we're going to eliminate these terrorist organizations, whether they renounce terrorism themselves or whether they're dealt with in a different way. I think also we have to be concerned about the people of Lebanon who are aspiring to a democratic society. The UN has given a framework to proceed in Resolution 1559 to extend control over Lebanese territory. We should support that.
Ambassador John Bolton, thanks for being here.
Glad to be here.
A reminder now to vote in our poll. Do you believe that Israel is justified in what Prime Minister Ehud Olmert called war waged at full strength with all determination, courage, and sacrifice? Yes or no? Cast your vote at BlueDials.com. The results coming up here later. Up next, the latest on tonight's new Israeli airstrikes against the suburbs of Beirut. Also, we'll be joined by former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger and 3 leading authorities on the Middle East. Stay with us.
Will there be justice for the wife of a high-profile California defense attorney? Was her murder part of a satanic ritual?
Nancy Grace, Headline Prime, tonight, 8.
Don't miss the Parade of Homes, on now through July 30th at Allegro Ridge in Washougal. Open daily, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., where dream homes really do come true.
Hi, I'm the person who didn't save hundreds of dollars by switching car insurance. Yep, I'm the guy. Must be, because every day they tell me about a bazillion people who switched on TV, radio, billboards. They show me entire stadiums worth of people who switched. But Progressive Direct shows you side-by-side comparisons of competitors' rates and services, so you can see if their services are worth the savings. Those gazillion people should call Progressive, because no one likes to be wrong. Think easier. Think Progressive.
VHIX.com helps people find the car they want at a dealer near them. How do we improve that user experience?
Include a vanity mirror so people can get an idea of how they look in their new car. Give them a free VHIX comb, too.
And your idea?
VHIX TV. Not just web pages, cool video test drives powered by Wheels TV.
Cool video test drives, now at VHIX.com. Just click Autos on Comcast.net.
So Heather, what do you think this is?
I don't know, John. What is it?
It's how you find PD Exposed on demand.
Oh, and how do you do that?
Well, with your Comcast digital cable remote, you click on Channel 1, click on Local Programs, then click on CW14, and then...
Click on PD Exposed.
Exactly.
Yeah, but do you think these guys can figure that out?
PD Exposed is brought to you by PDX Magazine, Portland's Where to Go, What to Do guide, featuring live music, restaurants, nightlife, local sports, and latest trends. Pick up this month's issue today or download your free copy at pdxmagazine.com.
Wait an hour for morning news. 6 a.m. CNN American Morning tomorrow.
We'll be updating you on these most recent attacks by Israel against targets in just outside of Beirut in just a matter of moments. We're going to turn now. Former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger joining us here to assess what is happening and to give us a, if you will, a more expansive view of what is happening geopolitically around the world. Let me ask you at the outset, the United States opposing a ceasefire, Israel pursuing its right to defend itself. What do you expect to be the outcome here?
I expect that the capacity of the Hezbollah to attack Israel will be reduced. And I think there's a possibility even that the 2 prisoners will be released. Although that would be an unusual thing for Hezbollah based on its previous practices.
Yeah, their previous practices, of course, to demand exchanges.
To trade them for an exchange. I believe that the Iranians and the Hezbollah made a miscalculation. They thought that the American position in Iraq might be so complicated and that the Israeli position was also difficult, that they could get away with doing this as a demonstration of Western weakness. And we have to remember, it happened in a week which is not, in which there was an attack on the Bombay subway system. Not that that was done from Iran, but it's part of the general mood of an aggressive Islam.
Well, let's turn to that issue, because the United States finds itself, it's easy to overlook the fact the United Nations Security Council this weekend passed a unanimous resolution condemning North Korea. At the same time, within a week of in Mumbai, 200 people dying in separate attacks on the railway there, the rail station there, and the train. The United States policy seems to be ad hoc, disjointed, against what is a global effort on the part of radical Islamist terrorists to take on new targets. Is that an incorrect perception?
I think I look at the events of this week, painful as they are, as a kind of a turning point. We have this UN resolution on Korea.
Right.
And I think that should be a landmark on the road to bringing the Korean issue to some conclusion. Because we've been negotiating now for 2 years. Now we have a unanimous United Nations resolution on the missile issue. But the missile issue is only the tip of the iceberg. What we really have to deal with is the nuclear issue. And it seems to me that the nations that are involved in this negotiation now have to face the choice of whether they want to demonstrate their impotence and demonstrate that we're living in a lawless world. And the same I would apply to Iran. Everybody's arguing whether we should have, which kind of sanctions we should have. But the fact of the matter is 6 nations have said there should be no enrichment. Now, if this enrichment program is not solved in a reasonable time, what is the conclusion that the world can draw?
The world could draw a number of conclusions, and as you suggest, without an effective foreign policy, particularly in the part of the United States and those nations with whom it finds itself allied. But is there, in your judgment, an intelligent, well-centered, and by centered I mean an expression of concern about U.S. interests in our geopolitical policy globally? Because these events, they seem disjointed, but they are united, and except in the case of North Korea, by radical Islamist terrorism.
Well, there's never been a period in history in which so many changes were taking place simultaneously. And it's not easy to form an overriding geopolitical concept. I think we've done very well getting the Iranian negotiation to this point in which we have united the 6 countries. We've got the Korean negotiation to that point. This I consider a good design. Now the question is, can we go from here to the next step, which is to implement the design, and that is going to be the tough decision.
Henry Kissinger, former Secretary of State, good to have you with us, Professor. Still ahead, we'll have some of your thoughts and the results of our poll tonight. Stay with us.
I'm Pete. I've had nice bosses, mean bosses, short bosses, tall bosses, she bosses, he bosses, they bosses, serious bosses, nervous bosses, and one kind of funny boss. Now I'm the boss, and my plan is to keep the boss happy.
You do what you love. We'll help you keep your investments on track. Fidelity Retirement Income Advantage. Call 1-800-FIDELITY. Smart move.
Work on that left hand.
Thanks for the dress, Mom.
Simple, everyday moments can be the perfect time to talk to your kids about not smoking, so you don't have to plan a big discussion.
Look, there's a dragonfly on one of the roads.
Is your leg? A little moment will do just fine. Talk to your kids about not smoking.
Smoking cigarettes can hurt your game too.
They'll listen.
Don't worry, Dad. I won't.
For conversation starters, log on to philipmorrisusa.com.
Pillaging was great this time of year, but with so many people switching to Capital One, we've taken jobs as camp counselors. Burnt a village to the ground, doodah, doodah. We're not exactly role models.
For low rates and great rewards, switch to Capital One.
What's in your wallet? Put your backs into it.
Stop paying too much for phone service. Switch to Vonage and you'll save up to 50% on your phone bill. You'll get unlimited local and long distance, voicemail, caller ID, call waiting, all for just $24.99 a month. Plus 1 month free. Vonage, leading the internet phone revolution. The middle.
Tonight at 10 on AC 360.
Now another siren's just gone off.
Anderson Cooper, live on the front lines in the Middle East.
The police are now saying there may be more rockets heading this way.
CNN Tonight, 10 Eastern.
Closed captioning hours sponsored in part by Hitachi Performa LCD projector.
With Hitachi's networkable 3 LCD projectors, you can run a presentation from here and present it here, here, and here. Only with Hitachi.
This is CNN Breaking News.
This just in, more explosions in Beirut. Israel tonight has launched a new wave of airstrikes against targets in Lebanon. Israeli aircraft targeting the southern suburbs of Beirut for the second time today. There are reports of at least 3 large explosions this evening. Southern Beirut is, of course, the stronghold of Hezbollah in the Lebanese capital. Earlier, Israeli air raids hitting the homes and offices of leaders of Hezbollah. We'll have much more as we learn more on these developments. And coming up at the top of the hour here on CNN, the Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer. Wolf.
Thanks very much, Lou. We're following the breaking news coming out this hour. Also, new Israeli airstrikes, not only in the Beirut area, but elsewhere as well. Plus, is a diplomatic solution any closer after more attacks on both sides of the Israeli-Lebanese border? We're going to have a closer look at what role Washington could play. Anxious family members waiting and worrying as thousands of Americans are caught in the crossfire in Lebanon's capital. Is the U.S. moving fast enough to try to get its citizens out of harm's way? And I'll speak with top U.S., Israeli, and Lebanese officials about what they think can be done to try to cool the deepening crisis. Lou, all that coming up at the top of the hour.
Thank you, Wolf. Looking forward to it. I'm joined now by 3 leading authorities on the Middle East. Stephen Cohen, an esteemed expert at the Israel Policy Forum, the IPF, an American nonprofit organization supporting peace efforts in the Middle East. Ambassador Richard Murphy, former Assistant Secretary of State, former U.S. Ambassador to Saudi Arabia, Syria, and the Philippines. And from Washington tonight, James Zogby, founder and president of the Arab American Institute, internationally regarded observer of U.S.-Arab relations with family roots in Lebanon. Good to have all 3 of you here tonight. Let me begin with you, if I may, Ambassador. This conflict, the United States has no ceasefire. It looks like the United States is giving Israel the go-ahead to pursue whatever its tactical and strategic aims are here against Hezbollah.
It says within the limits of not damaging the fragile government of Lebanon and its infrastructure, but that's impossible. There's a lot of people being hurt. The southern suburbs may be the headquarters of Hezbollah, but there's an awful lot of Lebanese Shiite living in that area.
And a lot of Israeli citizens living in northern
Absolutely.
Israel. And that really gets to the problem, doesn't it, Jim Zogby? This strike by Israel, the terrorism on the part of Hezbollah, what is the proper course here?
Well, I think the United Nations is moving in the right direction. There has to be a ceasefire. I think our UN position is wrong. I think there has to be a ceasefire, a cessation of the bombing, and an empowered envoy from the United States to help bring about a resolution to this matter. We will not see a military defeat of Hezbollah in this instance. Israel tried to do it with the PLO in '82, and out of that Hezbollah was born. And the Intifada ultimately came into being in the West Bank and Gaza. And so, you know, when there is a source, a cause of extremism, trying to squash it without resolving the issues at stake only causes it to morph into a different form. And I fear that, as Ambassador Murphy notes, that the situation in Lebanon is going to be far more difficult after this bombing than it has been to date.
Do you believe Israel was justified in its response?
I think that Hezbollah was wrong with this provocative act. It was reckless, and it put people at risk. But I think Israel's response has not been self-defense. I think it has been far disproportionate to self-defense, and it has put people of Lebanon at risk, and it has exacerbated this conflict, bringing death to hundreds of Lebanese and many Israelis as well. I think it could have been solved very differently if we'd been smart about this.
Stephen Cohen, your thoughts?
Well, I think first of all it's important to note that Israel hasn't done everything that one could be afraid that it could do. It has not yet had a major ground invasion of Lebanon, and I hope that that will not happen.
Although there was a brief incursion.
There was a brief incursion last night, but not a really substantial military invasion, and I think that's important. And I think that that would be the destructive act for the future of Lebanon and its government and the ability of the society to rebuild after this. It is a terrible thing for Lebanon that just after Syria, was finally moved out of Lebanon by the pressures of the international community and of the local community, that this situation has set Lebanon back so far. And it's very sad for Israel. This is a summer in which not only so many Lebanese Americans have been traveling to Lebanon, but so many Americans have been traveling to Israel. And there are many people who are being caught in this crossfire, and their hopes are being dashed.
In the crossfire, hopes dashed. That is a litany from the past 70 years, Ambassador Murphy, in the conflict between Israel and the Arabs. What in the world? Is there an approach that has not been taken? Is there a path that is productive? Or is this area consigned to perpetual conflict and violence and blood?
No, we've gotten closer, much closer than we are today to solutions as a result of vigorous American diplomacy. I think today we're not interested in the solo role anymore. I hope we will find a way to cooperate with the quartet and perhaps with a broader grouping, the Europeans, Russia, the G8 group that just assembled, because I don't think we really want to play the role that we once did in the Middle East.
Is that good or is that bad for the interest of Lebanon and for the Arab states and Israel, in your judgment, Jim Zogby?
I think it's bad. I think that the sustained American leadership is very important. It not only helps, I think, create restraint for the various parties in the region, it keeps people talking. It's also good and important for our interests. We have 130,000 troops right now in Iraq. We have enormous interests in the broader region. And despite what some on the neoconservative side say, we have an interest in stability and in an evolution toward more progressive society in the region. All of this goes out the window when we are absent from the scene, as we've been in a diplomatic way for far too long.
Jim, let me interrupt. We are showing video now that has just come in of more airstrikes that are taking place. The Israeli Air Force carrying out strikes in southern Lebanon. We know of 3 strikes so far over the last just about half hour. So those strikes continue. Let me ask you, is there in all of this any sense, any room for a continuation of this faux stability? Or is this, will there be ultimately a bloodletting? Are both sides, I'm sorry?
There are 2 good signs in the last few days. Okay. One was what Saudi Arabia did in the Arab meeting in Cairo, where the Saudis were willing to break a long Arab tradition and criticize a group that was being attacked by Israel. They indirectly and in a very clear way criticized Hezbollah. And I think that
we should point out, did so in far clearer terms and stronger terms than did the government of Lebanon.
Yes, and I think that that's a very important step, because I think that what has happened here is that some of the key states of the region, Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, the key Sunni states, are not happy to see this radicalism of Iran so strengthened by what Hezbollah is doing, what Hamas is doing, and what had happened in Iraq.
Jim Zogby?
Yeah.
You agree?
I think absolutely. The situation is not just though Iran and Shiism. It's a question of whether or not provocative actions outside of the reign of government can be allowed to take place. And what these guys did and what the folks in Gaza did, I think, was provocative and wrong.
Jim Zogby, we thank you for being
here.
You. Richard Murphy, thank you very much. Stephen Cohen, we appreciate your thoughts. The results of tonight's poll, 61% of you say Israel is justified in what Prime Minister Ehud Olmert called war waged at full strength. We thank you for being with us here tonight. For all of us, thanks for watching. Good night from New York. The Situation Room begins.